Dr. Ramji, for welcoming me. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Also would like to thank you for the effusive introduction. Thank you very much. Dr. Suresh, I have quite a fascinating association with Coimbatore and PSG, so lovely seeing you in my city. Thank you very much. Also, thank you, Madhusudan Rao Garu. Thank you so much for welcoming us. Dr. Bala, thank you. To all the attendees from various parts of India, various incubators in India, welcome you to Hyderabad. I'd like to believe this is the most beautiful city in India. For those of you who are not from here, you can check it out yourself. It's a beautiful city. It's a lovely city. It offers you many more things other than the usual academics. It offers you the experience of history, culture, heritage, and also a blend of modernity and innovative youngsters and innovative startups that you would have probably experienced at T-Hub, T-Works, and also elsewhere in Hyderabad, among all the brilliant young startups that you probably would have interacted with. It's a pleasure to be here at this ISBA annual conference in 2024, which is coming back to Hyderabad after 17 years, as you said. Thank you very much. I'm told this is India's largest gathering of startup incubators. Compliments to you on completing 20 years, because I know as a representative of a political party which has been around for 24 years, to do anything beyond 2 decades or 3 decades and stay relevant is not easy. So my compliments, Suresh, on making this happen. 250 delegates and 20 plus Indian states being represented here, again, is definitely a sign of good things, because India is a very diverse country. In India, everything changes every 250 kilometers. The language, the dialect, the cuisine, the style in which we interact with each other, and many other things. So it's in a very diverse, heterogeneous country, to bring about a cohesion in terms of innovation, in terms of how we can learn from each other without reinventing the wheel. That in itself is a huge challenge. So my compliments, Suresh, on making sure that all of you come together, all of you work together, and with brilliant minds like Dr. Mittal, Anita ji is here, and my colleague Dr. Shanta is here, my colleague Mr. Lakshma Reddy is here. So working with all these diverse, eclectic groups belonging to various states, bringing all of them together in itself is a remarkable feat. So I do hope you've had a great experience in Hyderabad over the last 3 days, and I do hope you'll come back to T-Hub, T-Works for further collaborations, for further networking opportunities, etc. Now, as I reflect on the changing nature of words, the word initiative comes to mind quite easily. Initiative at one point of time was a word that was viewed with hesitation, often perceived as something uncertain. And now, in India and elsewhere across the world, it is transformed into a symbol of leadership and opportunity. Now, in the world of startups and innovation, taking initiative is celebrated. It's seen as the crucial first step toward creating something groundbreaking. This shift in perception shows how much the world has evolved, where initiative is no longer something to shy away from, but a powerful leap towards progress and innovation. In fact, in this very auditorium at IICT, I remember, one of the events that I attended, I remember 2 things very distinctly. I think it was Dr. Mashelkar, if I remember correctly, who was here at this very podium addressing the audience. He said 2 things. India doesn't have the luxury of leapfrogging, is what he said. In terms of innovation, he said India does not have the luxury of leapfrogging. India needs to pole vault. India needs to jump a few hoops and catch up with the rest of the world. We don't have the luxury of leapfrogging. The second thing he said, I remember very distinctly. He had said, what India needs is not venture capital. India needs is a bit of adventure capital. I think that's, it's not just a good rhyming thing, to say, but it's a very logical thing to say as well. Because in the complex set of, issues that we encounter on a day-to-day basis as an innovator, I think one of the things India does need is capital and capitalists who are wanting to bet big and wanting to actually work with you all young startups and young incubators on really moving that innovation piece forward quickly. Now, when we talk about innovation, we often look to the global innovation hubs as the mecca of innovation. What makes it so? It's not just the cutting-edge technology or the abundance of talent. It's the ability to take ideas, market them, and present them to the world. While you could innovate, you also need the ability to pitch your ideas, to sell your vision. I think that's very, very important because, I've lived in the US for about 7.5 years. In fact, as Dr. Madhu said, my background was in biology. I have a graduate degree in microbiology, botany, and chemistry from Nizam College, Hyderabad. Subsequently, I also have a master's degree in biotechnology from Pune University. And then I also have a master's degree in business administration and marketing and e-commerce from City University of New York. Now, what I realized the difference in how we work in India versus how how the United States works, there's a very distinct difference in terms of how the pitch is made, how they brilliantly market even the smallest of things. Our chief minister, our former chief minister, my leader, Shri KTR, he used to say, whenever we used to talk about tourism, he used to joke and he used to keep saying, he used to say, what is there in Singapore? With all due respect to Singapore, I'm not saying anything nasty. He used to say, what is there in Singapore to market? It's a very small city country. वहाँ पे है क्या? हम लोग जाते हैं इतना दूर से, वहाँ पे एक लायन का एक बड़ा एक वो है पुतला है, उसके सामने जाके एक तस्वीर खींच के आते हैं, बोलते हैं कि हम लोग सिंगापुर गए, ये किए वो किए. मतलब ये है कि मैं कहना ये चाह रहा हूँ कि हमें marketing, even the smallest of things, if we are able to market it properly, pitch it properly, and present it. I think clarity of thought is important, but clarity of expression is far more important for a startup, for an innovator. I think that's something we can learn, take a few leaves out of, of the books of the American marketing geniuses and even the Bay Area marketing geniuses, because communication will create further value to whatever product you have. Communication is the key in terms of augmenting and in terms of actually making your product or service very, very presentable to the rest of the world. As we talk about innovation on a global scale, it's also important to recognize how we are fostering it locally right here in Telangana in the last 1 decade. As some of you may know it, Telangana is a new state. In fact, it is the most youngest state in India. It is only about 11 years old. Let me take you back and narrate a story that's very close to my heart and probably very highly relevant to this event. Ramji spoke about it for a minute, but I think this is a story that might inspire some of you at least. It all started in 2014, right after the formation of the new state. So June 2nd, 2014 is when the state was formed. And June, I think, 4th or 5th, I was actually at ISB, I think, right, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after the formation of the state. I swore in as a minister. And I was very keen to learn. I was very keen to learn, to understand exactly what we can do in terms of innovation. So I ended up at one of the best places in Hyderabad, which is IIIT Hyderabad and the ISB Hyderabad. Ended up there, started interacting with the directors, the deans, the researchers, some students as well. I was asking questions. I was very inquisitive. I wanted to understand what's going on. So there was always this big debate of how Bangalore is ahead of everybody else. Anybody from Bangalore here? Nobody? Seriously? Acha, few of you. Thank you. So how Bangalore is ahead, way ahead, in fact, of rest of the country in terms of innovation and how the startup culture there is, far ahead in terms of, say, the venture capital that they attract, in terms of the number of unicorns, a bunch of other things, which are very, very nice about Bangalore. So the one question that I kept asking myself and also everybody else I met with, I said, how is it that this city has done so well, whereas other Indian cities, which have been traditionally very, very popular, like Chennai, like Delhi, Bombay, which are again home to some of the best institutions, even Hyderabad, some brilliant academic institutions like IICT, CCMB, NIN, NGRI. How come we don't have as much innovation happening in our city? And how can we attract more investments? Because I was a Minister for Technology, Minister for Commerce. So my job was to attract investments, create jobs. So that was a question that was foremost on my mind. Amidst all this uncertainty in the initial days of formation of a new state, the idea was, how can we brand Telangana, which has just become a new state, as a startup state, as a state which is fledgling, which is just about beginning its journey? How can we make this a very attractive story? That was the premise. And the question I was asking is, how can we leverage the innovation ecosystem here? I realized that there are enough number of institutions in Hyderabad, like the ones I just mentioned, and many more. There are enough, again, academic institutions, number of brilliant colleges, brilliant higher education institutions, research institutions, and also a lot of youngsters who are very, very keen to become entrepreneurs, to innovate, etc. Now, the key point was to be able to bring all of them onto one platform, to see how we can create a synergy and how the government can play the role of an enabler. So the one takeaway for me on the 5th of June, when I ended up at IIIT Hyderabad and ISB Hyderabad, was, if I wanted my state to be called as a startup state, probably what I would require is a fine synthesis of some, synergy between all these various institutions, and how we can probably bring them together. And the one X factor that was missing in comparison with Bangalore for Hyderabad was a vibrant innovation ecosystem. So that's how we started realizing that we needed to look at this closely. And that's how actually T-Hub became a reality. This was 2014, June 5th, when we started looking at this. In 2015, T-Hub actually took shape. And I have to share this story with you. I wanted nobody else other than Ratan Tata to inaugurate it. A lot of people asked me. He just passed away. I remember him fondly. I've had many interactions with him. A lot of people asked me, they said, there are a number of unicorn founders that you can get. Why are you calling Ratan Tata? I said, I think he really symbolizes, he truly symbolizes the kind of change I want to see in India. Because here is this septuagenarian, a 70-year-old plus man. Now I think when he passed, he was 86. A 70-plus-year-old man who's as old as the independent India, because India was also there about 65 odd years of independence. But you see this gentleman who's 70 plus, who could very happily retire, who could very happily move away because, he's wealthy, he's got he's got access to all the good things in life, he doesn't have to work at all. But you see him investing in a startup every other day. You see him trying to do something or the other new every single day to keep himself occupied. He keeps interacting. He keeps going to places, lecturing on innovation, etc., etc. So I was very keen. So I reached out to him. I said, Mr. Tata, I want you to come inaugurate this facility. He said, what is this T-Hub? So I made a pitch. I said, sir, this is actually probably the biggest incubator in India now. And this is going to be a place where all of the innovators will basically come together. They'll have mentorship. They'll have all kinds of logistical support from the government. They'll also probably be able to pitch to the venture capital, which was a very nascent idea. Unfortunately, he was sick. He said, I'm sick, I can't travel. He said, I'd be happy to do it virtually. I said, no. I want you to come. I want you to come and inspire all of us. He said, that would mean a couple of months. I'm going through a medical procedure. I can only come a couple of months later. I said, fine. We actually postponed the event by, I think, 2 or 3 months just to make sure Mr. Ratan Tata was here. And the reason why I'm mentioning, because, when you hear the name Tata, you think of a large truck or a large manufacturing facility in Jamshedpur, a steel industry. But when you see the man and when you see the kind of investments he's making, it's very inspirational. So I wanted him to come. He came in on the 5th of November, 2015. I remember distinctly. And he made a fantastic speech when he saw the facility, interacted with the startups. This is what he said. And that is my biggest takeaway in my interactions with Mr. Ratan Tata. He said, T-Hub, this facility that I've just inaugurated, is a symbol, is a face of modern India. This is what he had said. And that is what I take most pride in. I was, of course, wanting to lash on to the lowest hanging fruit. So therefore, I went to ISB. Therefore, I went to IIIT Hyderabad. And then we also started seeing how we can really, like I said, probably scale up and, grow up, into a next level. That's when I started touring the world. I traveled to the US many a times, to the Valley, and also many other inspiring incubation hubs and nodes and, important so-called, destinations. Result of all these interactions was we realized, if India really has to be a force in the world in terms of our ability to challenge the world, ability to actually connect with the rest of innovation ecosystem in the world, we also need scale. So we decided that we will actually create the world's largest tech incubator in India, and that too in Hyderabad. So the initial phase of T-Hub was only about 75 to 78,000 square foot in terms of physical space, could only accommodate about 200 startups. But then we wanted to create the world's largest. So then we went about methodically again, and this time we have, where you were yesterday, in fact, that place, you know, the T-Hub phase 2, we used to call it reactor. I'm not sure what this government is calling it anymore. But we created almost 570,000 square foot of space, which can eventually accommodate more than 2,000 startups under one single roof. And alongside that, while we were working on this, alongside that, we basically carved out about 18 acres in the of prime real estate in Hyderabad Knowledge City. Alongside the T-Hub, we also created India's largest prototyping facility called as T-Works, so that, you know, hobbyists, enthusiasts, anybody who's wanting to create a product prototype can actually dabble in that. It could be a youngster, a college student, or could just be a hobbyist, or could just be somebody else. We created T-Works. And alongside of these two, we also created what is called as Image Tower. Now, Image literally stands for innovation in animation, multimedia, gaming, and entertainment. Now, between all three of them, we have decided to create 1.5 million square foot of constructed space, which would eventually have more than 5,000 startups working under one single roof, and that truly would be the world's largest innovation campus. So this was the vision of our government in terms of creating T-Hub, T-Works, Image, all in one location, co-located together, so that, you know, these kids could work with each other, talk to each other, get inspired, and also network, and also grow as time passes. Now, I think we have had some great successes also from T-Hub, T-Works, and I can, you know, tell you, it's a unique PPP model what we've created with backing from the, you know, government, and along with support from industry leaders and premier educational institutions. T-Hub became a living, breathing ecosystem. And it wasn't long before it began to make waves. It played a pivotal role in positioning Telangana as a hub for entrepreneurship, nurturing thousands of startups in the state, connecting them to investors, mentors, and industry leaders. And we did not stop at this. We started creating more and more of such incubators. We have created India's one and only women entrepreneurship hub, called as the V-Hub. Then subsequently, we also created what is called as RICH, the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad, which again brings about a synergy between academic institutions, the marketplace out there, so that you actually start researching and working more, not on what is what is of interest to us, but also to the market outside. We also then subsequently wanted to catch our innovators young. So we brought in some very brilliant young minds from across the world. Dr. Shanta Tautam is sitting right in front of me. She was working in the US. She has a PhD. She's a doctor. I brought her from the US, made her the CEO of Telangana State Innovation Cell, whose intent was to work with the 26,000 government schools that there are in Telangana, catch our young minds. In association with the Education Department, we launched what is called as a School Innovation Challenge, and we went about identifying entrepreneurs from rural backgrounds, entrepreneurs who are coming out with some socially useful products, and we wanted to create more and more of such vehicles. The momentum ultimately led us from 200 startups in 2014 to now more than 5,000 startups in Hyderabad in a span of 10 years. We have, but I think the sheer numbers don't really matter. If you ask me, it's not the quantity, but I think it's the quality. So therefore, I'm also super proud that some of these startups have made waves across the world. In fact, a T-Hub incubator called as Skyroot was the first Indian space tech company to have sent a satellite into the orbit. Now that is the kind of impact we've been able to create. Also, over the past 8-9 years, T-Hub has contributed to a total investment of more than $3.5 billion in the startups that it has nurtured. of course, fueled innovation with more than 600 corporate partnerships, facilitated 500 mentor connections, and engaged with more than 3,000 startups. Well, I can go on and on about T-Hub because it was my baby, but I think I've said enough on that. Like I said, we've also created a number of other institutions, but the last thing I'll tell you before I quit. We believe very strongly in the 3I mantra to spur further innovation. What do I mean, the 3I mantra? We said, we have to innovate, incubate, incorporate. At the same time, we also, while we do this, we also wanted to focus as a whole, and I'm sure Jayesh must have mentioned it when he was here. What's important, Dr. Suresh, is I think all of us can learn from each other. We collaborated with many other states. We collaborated with Goa. We collaborated with, I remember, Delhi. We also collaborated with Assam in terms of helping them from our learnings, from our experience on how we could probably build incubators at a faster pace, how we could probably help them without having to reinvent the wheel. And most importantly, I think the 3I mantra that I was espousing all along: innovation, infrastructure, and most important is inclusive growth. We cannot be elitist. Incubators can't just be in tier 1 cities. They can't just be in Hyderabad and Chennai and all the metros. We have to spread them to tier 2 and tier 3 towns. That's exactly what we've done in Telangana. In about 10 tier 2 towns in Telangana, the government of Telangana had created lovely IT hubs, in which we also have a space dedicated for innovation for T-Hub at a rural tier 2 destination. We also have what is called as TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, so that a job seeker can go to TASK, a job creator, a potential job creator, can come to T-Hub or can come to T-Works. So this is a kind of whole of ecosystem approach that we have taken, and it's been a fascinating journey. Today I'm proud to share with you as I stand here that my state truly is a startup state, because in the first 10 years of its existence, it went from being ranked 14th in terms of per capita income in 2014 to number 1 in 2023 when we actually relinquished office. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Look forward to continued conversations, and I hope you continue to enjoy Hyderabad and your visits here. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir, for such a lovely session. You spoke about innovation, the 3 mantras, how T-Hub has developed. You also spoke about we have more power to all the women and more power to all the men who are supporting them. It's great to hear about all the details what Hyderabad, the Telangana state is doing, and it's inspiring that how we need to believe in collaboration and support each other. Then only we can become number 1 in the world. And can we have a big round of applause once again? तालियां जोर से बजनी चाहिए, इसमें शोर होना चाहिए। और सर आप हमारे लिए बहुत ही प्रेरणा का स्रोत हैं। And now I request Dr. Suresh to kindly present the momento to our guest, please. Can we have a big round of applause once again?